Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Okay, so the Browns have made some cuts, not all their cuts. They don't have to finish cutting every player until the end of Tuesday, so we'll know who is on the 53 or not by then. But the Browns have made some cuts here. 17 players are gone. There's also some positive injury news for the Cleveland Browns that kind of broke out today. I think the first bit of positive injury news is Ethan Posick. Seems like they feel pretty good that Ethan Posick's going to be able to play week one. That was the word coming out after the game. There was a huge concern of whether Ethan Posick would be able to play in week one after getting injured in the last preseason game. It didn't look great, right? He seemingly hurt his knee, needed help to get off the field, and did not play for the rest of the game. But as of right now, the word is that they're hopeful that Ethan Posick can play week one. Same is true injury-wise with Kenny Pickett. That Kenny Pickett said they think Kenny Pickett can play week one too, or is expected to play. Well, not expected to play week one because we don't even know if he's going to be on the roster. But he would be healthy if he were on the roster for week one. Now, a lot of the stuff with Kenny Pickett, I'm going to be real with you, and we're going to touch on this later, feels like they're the classic Andrew Berry propping up a player to get traded, right? We know when Andrew does this, we saw him do this with Travis Hunter over the course of the draft, where he's trying to sell something in order to get a draft asset. And when he tries to sell something, you got to kind of look at it and go, okay, maybe he's not saying something about this year. He's trying to make something else happen for this year. But Ethan Posick, Kenny Pickett, both, Ethan Posick's definitely going to make the roster, but Kenny Pickett, if he makes the roster, would be healthy week one, which does answer a question about if he would even have to hop on IR. So that's positive injury news. The Browns cut 17 players. We're going to talk about those players real quick. There's really no surprises here. I'll walk through the list here. They cut cornerback Chidozie Inuzium. They cut Sal Cannella, Javion Cohen, Sebastian Gutierrez, KJ Henry, Ralph Holley, Christian Holmes, Keenan Isaac, Jaden Ivey, Titus Lee, Marvin Moody, Darius Rush, Charlie Thomas, Lorenzo Thompson, D'Artagnan Tisley, Mitchell Von Vorn, Bucky Williams. There were more cuts here too. Let me get to those real quick because I know Tony Brown also got cut, which was the one, I guess, if Tony Brown got cut a little bit earlier than I thought he would. I thought he would be part of the main 53. Tyler Huntley got cut as well. That was another big name people made a thing out of. And then like every corner got cut, man. Nick Needham got cut. Tony Brown got cut. Christian Holmes got cut. Keenan Isaac got cut as well. So the Browns cut pretty much almost every DB they have. That kind of tells you what their mindset is going to be as far as grabbing corners in this kind of end of camp, start of season situation. They're going to do a lot of roster claims here, right? Because right now they have Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward on the roster, Cam Mitchell, Miles Harden, and then Dom Jones, Lamron James. I don't think they're going to stay with that. I'd be very surprised if they stay with that. I think they're going to have their eyes open for a lot of opportunities to upgrade the corner position throughout, by taking other teams' camp cuts. The corner depth has been pretty bad for this team all camp. I think that's been on display very prominently. Where the Browns are pretty desperate for a nickel solution. Nick Needham was like one of the things that was floated out there as a possible nickel solution. They clearly didn't think highly of that. Tony Brown is not on the team anymore. I don't think they're big on starting Cam Mitchell, or at least I hope they're not, at that slot corner position, because he just did not execute well at all during camp. So yeah, they're probably going to be on the prowl here for some corners from other teams' rosters. Speaking of that, a prominent slot corner, Mike Hilton, got cut. Now, here's the thing about Mike Hilton. If we are talking about 3 years ago, I'd be doing backflips. I'd be doing cartwheels. Mike Hilton was a hell of a slot corner 3 years ago. Ever since the end of his first Cincinnati run, Mike Hilton's pretty obviously been cooked. If you followed Mike Hilton's career, I believe he went to the Panthers and came back to Cincinnati, and now he's in Miami. Nobody held more water for him than Lou Anarumo. Nobody loved him more than Lou Anarumo, and the fact that he was like, "Hey man, it's over." It's not a great sign. As a coverage corner, he's not very useful. He's still useful in run defense, but he's not a very good coverage corner anymore. The question is he still better than Cam Mitchell at covering, right? Where's your evaluation there? Because Cam has been terrible. Mike's not good. Now, look, I'm not expecting Super Bowl Mike Hilton to be on this team if the Browns sign him. I think that should be a very clear expectation. I'm not even 100% sure Mike Hilton would even start if the Browns were to sign him. I don't think it can hurt to go out and get a guy like Mike Hill. I think there are other guys that they're probably going to focus on before they get to Mike Hilton. There's a guy out there in San Francisco I think they're going to have their eyes on to see if he gets released. So I don't think Mike Hilton would be the Browns' first choice. So I don't know how much of a rush they're going to be in to bring in Mike Hilton. But he is a name that does make sense here. So there's that. The Browns also cut Tyler Huntley. This ends a very weird saga in Browns coverage. And look, I'm gonna have to talk about the strangeness of how the Browns quarterback situation has been covered by the national media, especially by people in media who know better, right? Again, I got no beef with people who do not do this for a living, who do not know better right now, because those people are being failed by people in the national media who are giving them bullshit and selling that bullshit as fact. And I can't blame somebody, when they're working a full-time job and they're not studying football endlessly every day like people who do work in this industry do, for hearing somebody with credibility say something and trusting that, right? I blame the people with credibility who choose to say bullshit. That's really where I stand on it, right? I get a million comments from people who are misguided in the comment section, and they have all kind of things to say about the Browns quarterback situation. And it's okay, I'm not going to be able to fix that, right? I can try to talk reason to people, but if you love Chad Johnson or, Shannon Sharp, and you trust them as infallible sources of the truth, okay, that's your choice. I certainly am not going to change your mind if you aren't that familiar with me. So, I understand it, right? I can't convince everybody. There's limitations to who's going to listen to me, all of that great stuff. But yeah, that's what my frustration has been at with this whole quarterback situation. When Tyler Huntley signed with the Browns, people had a whole freak out about it. Why did the Browns sign Tyler Huntley? They had an injured quarterback. Kenny Pickett's been injured. They needed an extra camp on. This is an exceedingly normal thing for a football team to do, is to sign another quarterback to be a camp arm. The Cleveland Browns do this very normal thing, and everybody loses their mind. And I made the joke earlier this year, and man, this joke is aged like fine wine, because nothing, what describes this offseason more than anything is Browns do thing that's normal. Everybody else reacts to it in the strangest way possible, right? Browns play fourth string quarterback in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. People lose their mind. People lose their mind. You know what I mean? It's insane what we've had to contend with this offseason. And it's unfortunate because a lot of this is being done in the name of a player, Shador Sanders, who's not even asking for anybody to act this ridiculous over him. So Tyler Huntley gets cut. That ends one silly saga where everybody's counting the amount of quarterbacks you can count on the Browns roster and going, how are they going to keep all 12 quarterbacks? Stop being stupid. Stop choosing to be stupid. You knew they were never going to keep Tyler Huntley. Anybody who was like making it seem like the Browns are going to roster Tyler Huntley or put Tyler Huntley on the roster over Shador Sanders really should be more cognizant of just how reactionary they are, or, ashamed of themselves. Because anybody who's done this for like more than 10 minutes would tell you Tyler Huntley was never making a roster. But anyways, I digress. The Browns are looking for a quarterback trade. Everybody knows the Browns have 4 quarterbacks. There's a lot to talk about with the quarterback room. Let's start with, let's continue off because I'm already kind of on the tangent. Kevin responded to questions about if the Browns are trying to sabotage Shador. He basically said, we're trying to develop our rookies like every other rookie on the roster. And the sabotage narrative makes no sense. It makes no sense when you look at it from like the Browns' perspective. It only makes sense if you leave out so many things and so many other people's motivations here, right? Because at the base of this, what people are asking me to believe is that the Browns traded 2 6-round picks to move up in the 5th round to draft Shador Sanders just to not develop him. That makes sense to you? I don't know. That don't make any sense to you. I don't know if that makes sense to me. That makes no sense to me. The Browns traded up to get Shador Sanders, traded 2 picks, 2 early 6 to get Shador Sanders so they wouldn't develop him? For who? For what? I mean, if the NFL, like some people are like, well, the NFL's making the Browns do this, right? And it's like, well, if the NFL truly wanted to sabotage Shador Sanders, they could have just told everybody to not draft Shador Sanders, and Shador would have been undrafted. But no. The NFL didn't want to do that. They called the Browns and said, hey, you're going to have to give up your 2 6-round picks to go draft Shador. And then once you draft Shador, I need you to purposely step on his development. And all of this is being said while the Browns, in my opinion, have handled his development fine. It's been quite normal. The Browns have handled him like they've handled other 5th-round picks in the past. There's no conspiracy. I feel ridiculous even having to justify it. What we're talking about is a 5th-round pick playing in the second half of a preseason game with other people who play in the second half of the preseason game. Nothing about this is abnormal. The Browns using a 5th-round pick on a developmental quarterback, not unnormal. The Browns playing that 5th-round quarterback in the second half of a preseason game, and that 5th-round quarterback struggling a little bit. That's not out the normal, right? A 5th-round quarterback demonstrating that they might not be ready to play week 1. That's not unnormal. A 5th-round quarterback not getting a ton of opportunity to start week 1. That's extremely normal. That's extremely normal. Everybody says, that, well, he's not been in the competition. He's not gotten a good chance of being there. He's a 5th-round pick. He's not going to be in the competition. He's got to earn his way to be in the competition. Hell, Dylan Gabriel, 3rd-round pick, he wasn't even in the competition. The only people that were in the starting competition were Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, and very early on, Kenny Pickett took himself out the competition. People bitching and moaning about a competition ain't been happening for 3 weeks. I saw somebody else talk about Shador being pulled from that 2-minute drive. Well, he's in a quarterback competition. How could you pull him in the last 2 minutes? He's not been in a quarterback competition for like a month. It's been pretty obvious. What do you mean? That last preseason game, nobody was competing for anything. Shador was going to make the roster regardless. There was nothing for him to prove. He kept getting tackled. They said, okay, enough. Let's just throw Tyler Huntley out there. And Tyler Huntley scored on that drive and got cut today. There was no competition. They knew what they're going to do at quarterback weeks ago. They told you the competition was over a week ago. People acted like Shador could have won the job with a 2-minute drill at the end of the last preseason game after they already announced the starter and he played like garbage for 2 quarters. People are like, oh, well, that 2-minute drill could have won him the starting job. What are you talking about? Who is that incompetent? What football team could ever be that incompetent that they name a starter before this game even goes on? They named Joe Flacco the starter last Tuesday. Shador goes out there, plays really bad for 2 quarters, gets a 2-minute drill at the end of the preseason, and then that changes his depth chart status? Are you serious? What? The nonsense, man. The nonsense. I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't want this channel to be consumed by reacting to nonsense. I want to talk about football more often. But I just got to get that one off. It's been just pure nonsense ever since the end of this preseason game. And say it with me, man. He played bad. It's not that big of a deal. That's it. That's a perfectly acceptable line of thought. He played bad, but guys, it's not that big of a deal. He's still going to make the team. He's still going to be developed. And if he continues to develop after he makes the team, he might get a chance to start this season. It's not that big of a deal. We don't have to do this. He's not going to get cut more than likely. Let's all take a deep breath and relax. Let's get to something else. All right. The quarterback trades thing. Okay, so the Raiders, I think, Aiden O'Connell went down for them with a wrist injury. Pete Carroll said he's looking for a backup quarterback. Maybe they're in the market for Kenny Pickett. Here's my thought process on Kenny Pickett and the Browns. If the Browns can't trade Kenny Pickett, me personally, I have no problem with cutting Kenny Pickett and seeing if he can make the practice squad. Now, some of you might say, hey, Quincy, Kenny's not going to make it through waivers. I beg to differ. If nobody wants to trade barely anything for Kenny Pickett, right? If there's not a lot of interest here, and I don't know what the Browns are fielding, right? They might be getting calls left and right for Kenny Pickett, and they know the demand's higher, right? We'll see. I don't think there's that much demand for Kenny Pickett. I'm biased. I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. Never been a Kenny Pickett guy. So maybe that's my bias showing. I'll be transparent about that. But if you can't trade him to Raiders, nobody is desperate enough to take Kenny Pickett, you might as well cut him, see if you can sneak him on the practice squad. If you can sneak him on the practice squad, then I think that's the best of both worlds, right? You get the extra roster spot. You get to keep 4 quarterbacks. You have a guy who could start for you in Kenny Pickett if Joe Flacco goes down early enough to where you aren't comfortable with starting Dylan Gabriel. I think it's the best of both worlds there. You know, I think that's the best way to go about it. The way that will work, though, is that Kenny Pickett's 100% making the initial 53. So Wednesday, when we know the 53-man roster, Kenny Pickett's going to be on that 53-man roster. The question is, next Wednesday, will Kenny Pickett still be on the roster? I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll see here. But they're going to try to trade Kenny Pickett, I think. We'll see where they get or if they get anything. But that's my thoughts about everything going on with the Browns right now. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.